videos are for entertainment only. I'm a cranky old lady with too much time on my hands. Let's get out some yarn and sit a while.
If y'all want to follow along with me with the handwork I'm doing today, you can find it on the crochet playlist. I am doing the waffle stitch. Okay, y'all want to talk about serial killers? Because I always do. Austin police suspect that there is a serial killer, and hopefully they've caught him in Austin. And it's not the Rainey Street Ripper. Raul Mesa Jr. was born October 14th in 1960 in Austin, Texas, to Raul Mesa Sr., whose whereabouts are unknown. And it seems that Raul's bio dad wasn't in the picture a whole lot. And to his mother, Elvia Ortiz, who passed away in 2020. Records show that he had 3 stepfathers and multiple half-siblings by the time he was 15 years old. Meza started using drugs when he was about 8 years old. And his first arrest was in 1973 for shoplifting and burglary. The following year, the report stated Meza was accused of arson after a fire at Austin Junior High School and was sent to Giddings State School. While at Giddings, Meza ran away and broke into a local country store, according to the record cited in 82 Statesman newspapers. Regardless of the truancy, Giddings State School caseworker wrote a letter to Meza's mom stating that he was working on his problems in a mature and realistic fashion. Oh, yeah. How many times is the state going to fail this young man? But never mind that. Never mind that. There might not have been anything they could do. Less than 6 months after the caseworker's letter, Meza was released in 1974 and enrolled at Travis High School, where he failed every subject. But while he was detained in Travis County Jail, Meza was watched closely after he attempted to sneak out, to escape, by hiding in a trash can. And they also feared that he would attempt suicide. So they were keeping a pretty good eye on him. And a veteran of that facility said that it was like putting a Cocker Spaniel in a pit of German Shepherds. He didn't stand a chance. His first major arrest came on December 31st, 1975, when he robbed a convenience store on South Congress in Austin. During that robbery, he shot the store attendant. The attendant did, thankfully, thank you, Jesus, he did survive, but gave this statement. He knelt me down, took a few steps back, took aim at my back, and shot me, he told the interviewer. Meza was arrested and charged with aggravated robbery and tried as an adult at the age of 16. This case marked the first time that Meza was freed early from prison, despite being given a lengthy prison sentence. He was given 20 years, but got out after serving 4 years. Yeah. He was released on parole in February 1981. And y'all, go get a tissue and some chocolates, because this one's brutal. The murder of Kendra Page. Her remains were discovered in a dumpster at Langford Elementary School, nude and covered in bruises. On January 3rd, 1982, Meza had brutalized and strangled the 8-year-old. She was last seen riding her bicycle around the school in South Austin and was later found not alive in a dumpster near the school. 3 days later, 21-year-old Raul Mesa Jr., along with his attorney, went to the Austin Police Department headquarters and turned himself in. To avoid trial and a possible death sentence, a deal was struck between Mesa's attorney and the Travis County District Attorney's Office. They received a 30-year sentence. Former Travis County DA Ronnie Earl told KVUE, KVUE's a local news and weather station for us here in Austin, in 1982 interview that following Mesa's sentencing, the evidence after the murder was quite thin and such that a plea deal was the best disposition of the case. So Meza was trying to get ahead of his behavior and keep the actions on his term. Keep the whole deal on his terms. Mesa's attorney at the time was Rip Collins. And we're going to look a little bit more at Rip in a minute. But he had a different reason for wanting to make this deal. And I quote, "We could have been defending this boy Meza in a capital murder case. So that's why we took the plea bargain agreement," Collins told the reporters in 82, even though the 30-year sentence would have put him away for a long time. Guess what? He was out in just under 12 years. So he did a little over 11 years for murdering a child. Here's the reason. Meza had been sentenced under an old Texas law that required the release when he had served, when good time and actual time served equaled the original sentence. Now, this loophole no longer exists. Thank you, whoever did that. Meza called a conference to tell the public, "I can only tell you in my heart that I know I will never willingly harm anyone again." That's what he said. Subsequently, he was driven out of several communities by angry residents, though he said that he was a born-again Christian and he had paid his debt to society. Communities still didn't want him there. Now, I should have looked it up so I could tell y'all, but I don't know if the sex offender requirement and registry was up at that time. I'll have to look closer into that. Thank y'all for reminding me. Let's take a psychological look into Meza's mind. In 1982, examination by a psychologist, David Poole, and I quote, "doesn't appear to expect much of himself or of his life. It seems that he is a strong candidate at this point for a life of recidivism or suicidal inclinations." End quote. Vivian Lewis, who also worked as a therapist with Meza, says this: "While meeting Raul, I was in the world of a completely different animal." Lewis told KXAN, and KXAN is another local news and weather station for us here in Central Texas. She remembered seeing Meza and initially feeling as if she had made a breakthrough with him and was going to be able to help him. I can appreciate her enthusiasm. She went on to say, "The next time I went out, I realized I had been conned." She knew, here's what she said: I was dealing with a psychopath, and the most impacting thing about Raul is how engaging he can be. He's a deadly person and has been since adolescence. She conducted her assessment on Meza while he was serving time for Paige's murder. It is the iciest, most blood-curdling interview I had been in. Willing to explicitly describe his crime against Kendra, he seems to find great joy in hurting the girl. I believe that Raul truly enjoys grooming someone, teaching them that he's safe, and then horribly harming them." End quote. Dr. Nancy Zars, a forensic psychologist, can't comment on Meza's case directly, but she provided some insight on the factors that make people more likely to commit these type of crimes. Young age, male gender, past history of violence, antisocial psychopathy, and serious mental illness. She said, was listing some of the risk factors. She also said frequent time in prison can play a role. The fact that somebody is coming in and out of prison indicates that there is repeated illegal behavior. Also mentioning, oftentimes that behavior tends to accelerate over time and their crimes become more severe. Interim Assistant City Manager Bruce Mills, who was the primary investigator on the 1982 case, said, "Here's a serial killer that justice was not served. It was a travesty of justice." The Austin Police Department said that they are currently looking into at least eight cold cases that Meza could be connected to. As part of KXAN's continuing investigation into Meza and his criminal cases, the investigation is continuing. They're not ready to give it up yet. Thank you, KXAN. And as soon as they come up with anything else, I'm going to let y'all know. Now, hang on to your garters, because here comes some stuff that's going to make y'all mad. It made me mad. Meza's release and his mother's influential connections. According to multiple archived newspapers, Meza's mother, now Elvia Castro, was very active and well known in the community. She was the director of on-the-job training for the Women's Center of Austin and worked on political campaigns for multiple state officials, including then state rep Gonzalo Barrientos and former Travis County Commissioner Richard Moya. When Meza was eligible for parole in 1981, while serving his sentence for the aggravated robbery, newspaper archives stated that Barrios and Moya, as well as others such as former Travis County Sheriff Raymond Frank, all wrote letters of support to the Texas Parole Board in favor of Meza's release. Moya told the Austin American-Statesman he wrote the board because Meza's mother asked him to. How much research did he do before he wrote that letter? Just saying. Additionally, the archived newspapers stated that Castro personally appealed to Johnny McCollum, who at the time coordinated parole cases for the governor, for Meza to be released. KXAN spoke to Barrientos, who said he didn't personally know Meza's mother and explained that his office frequently received requests from family members. Oh, I hate when that phone does that. I've got it set to quiet, but it ain't quiet. The families asked for letters of good consideration to be provided to the Texas Parole Board. Barrientos told KXAN he remembers receiving a phone call from Moya about a woman who was seeking support to have her son released on parole. So, did Senor Barrientos not even speak to Mama? Gives you pause, don't it? Barrientos' office did provide the letter at that time, but on hearing of the Meza being up for parole again in 93, he wrote a second letter to the parole board recommending that Meza not be released. Had he done a little more homework? Had his people advised him a little better by then? Let's hope Mr. Barrios was making better friends. Moya and Frank have since passed away, so there are no current comments from them. The KXAN investigation found this was not the only involvement former Commissioner Moya had with the Meza family. According to police records cited in 1982, Castro called Moya hours after Miss Page's body was found. And she told him that her son was telling her a real weird story and that she was real afraid and wanted some advice. Moya recommended Castro get an attorney and referred her to Austin attorney Roy Minton. 2 days later, Meza turned himself in to the Austin Police Department with his attorney, Rip Collins. Now, here's where I'm going to tell you about Rip, like I promised earlier. He's an associate of Minton's. So there's the connection to good old Mom, being legally connected to people who know people. Meza was released on parole in 1993 after serving less than 12 years. Again, less than 12 years for killing a child. I hope his stay in prison was as miserable as we all hope it was. And on his release, his correction officials tried to relocate him in 6 different cities within Central Texas, and everybody protested his release. Imagine that, not wanting someone like that around your kids or your family or yourself. Imagine that. KXAN, and I'm leaning on them a lot because they did such a good job. They interviewed Meza's mother in 93, who said the protesters didn't bother her at all. I'm not asking for any special favors. I'm not asking for anything, but I will not hold my head down in shame anymore, she says. My son did his time, and it's completed, and we will go on with our lives as best we can. End quote. So, shortly after returning to Austin to live with his mother, Meza got married for the first time on October 25th, 93. According to the Texas Department of Health and Human Services, that marriage did not last long and ended less than 8 months later. Shortly after the divorce in 94, Meza was arrested on parole violation for violating the terms of his curfew. Now, I think it was such that he had to be in the house and where he was registered to live and all that stuff by midnight. And he kind of blew that off, so they kind of rearrested him. Jesse Fraga, later a victim, is cited in an archived 94 newspaper article as seeking a second chance for Meza. He says, and I quote, "I see a man trying to help himself. The incarceration since his last arrest really got his attention." Fraga told the reporter Meza's parole violation had landed him in prison for the next 8 years before being released on parole and transferred to the Del Valley Correction Center halfway house. Del Valley is just outside of Austin, and at the time it was a more like rural location, and now it's growing up out there a lot. So probably a very different atmosphere now than it was to the time he was there. And in 2002, he was released to the halfway house in 2002. Meza had difficulties getting a job. Imagine that. I wonder if he could pass a background check. So he opted for educational opportunities and went to a 6-week vocational class at ACC. That's Austin Community College. And it's a really cool place. You can get all kinds of classes over there. But he had gone into HVAC carpentry, electrician work, and plumbing, according to documents. He was trying to be a handyman. Well, that's not great. Did anyone think about giving him the advice of, maybe you shouldn't do that because people are not going to let you into their house? And I also wonder, was he in the classroom with a lot of potential victims, or was this class offered by video? I mean, was this too early for that? I don't know. But it just doesn't seem the wise thing to let him do. While remaining on parole in 2016, Meza got married 2 more times. Where is he finding these girls? Once in 2009, which ended up in annulment after 3 months. Smart girl. And again in 2015, which lasted more than 2 years, but it does not say that they were together that whole time. Just says they were married that long. Their divorce in 2018. Sorry, there's a lot of dates and times in this one. Meza's mother passed away in 2020, and she was Elvia Ortiz Alvarez. KXAN spoke to a cousin of Meza's who wished to remain anonymous, but says Meza didn't attend his mother's funeral, but was deeply impacted by her death. The cousin said he hadn't seen Meza in months, but was shocked when he heard the recent news that his uncle always talked about God and being born again. The cousin further added that his uncle needs to face the consequences for his action. So I'm questioning cousin or uncle, but honestly, does it really matter? A family with this many divorces and remarriages and halves and steps and all that stuff, the lines can get pretty blurry, but I'm not sure if the relationship exact wording is a big deal at this point. Most accurately, I could go on to say that a family member said that. On May 9th, 2019, 65-year-old Gloria Lofton was discovered dead in her home by a daughter. Blood was present in the hallway and on her pillow. A condom was found in the kitchen. The initial autopsy was inconclusive, and although there was evidence that she could have died due to strangulation, it was determined that she had died from an alcohol-related accident, as there was no solid evidence for murder, and she was known to have an alcohol addiction. Yeah, because whiskey always uses a condom when it strangles you. Only after Meza confessed to her murder in 2023 was the cause of death updated to homicide by strangulation. Glad they got that cleared up. In May 2023, following Meza's arrest, Lofton's daughter recalled a note that she found in the home after Miss Lofton had died, which read, "I, Gloria Elizabeth Lofton, give permission to Raul Mesa Jr. to request a certificate of authority on my behalf for the purpose of ... blank ... So the rest of it was not filled out. Meza would later tell a homicide detective that he was supposed to receive 25% of an inheritance that was to be Lofton's nephew would receive this money on her passing. But the daughter told them that there was no nephew. There's not a nephew to inherit anything. So what they think is maybe this was arranged by another relative, or it's a total fabrication. This note was found at the home 6 days after her body was discovered. The note identified Meza by name. The daughter had forgotten about it until recently found images of the document on her phone while searching for a video that she shot after her mother's death. A video that was shot in the home. There it was, right there in front of us this whole time. And who knows how many deaths might have been prevented had they looked around a little harder and a little further. That was her quote. That's what the family said of the investigators. But neither did they turn in the evidence. The family had said they did not question the police investigation more because they focused on sorting out Lofton's affairs and laying her to rest. We all grieve differently. A sexual assault kit during Lofton's autopsy provided a match to Meza's DNA in 2020, but nothing was done with this information and no explanation as to why. The police offered no explanation why this information was not acted on. The police department acknowledged that it didn't act on key forensic evidence that could have linked the suspect, Raul Mesa Jr., to Lofton's death 4 years earlier. In addition, the family said that they were not aware a sexual assault kit had been used and therefore didn't know to ask. They were way too trusting of a system that didn't get everything right. Yet they heard nothing from authorities about their mother's death until after Meza's alleged confession. Now, we have to go through here saying supposedly and alleged because not everything is worked out yet, and some of the things are, but we still gonna say supposedly and alleged because that's the way we got to work it on YouTube, and I think maybe it's fair to some of the families. And they heard nothing from authorities about their mother's death until after the confession, when Meza told detectives he was responsible for the killing of a lady on the street where Lofton lived. According to the affidavit in the Statesman, according to the affidavit in a statement, Interim Austin Police Chief Robin Henderson said the department, I'm stumbling all over this, I can't read. Said the department was deeply sorry about the oversight that linked the DNA report. No explanation for the error was provided. We realize the impacts this has on the case itself, community, and most importantly, the victims and their families. As soon as the error was brought to our attention, we addressed it as quickly as we could to identify how this happened and implemented policies to avoid incidents like this from occurring. Since this occurrence, the Austin Police Department have added redundancies into the notification process to ensure this won't happen again. Y'all ready to get mad again? The officer responsible for the oversight will not face any disciplinary measures, Henderson said, because state law prohibits disciplined for acts that occurred more than 180 days before. The family was furious over the announcement, and I'm sure we are too. The department did not alert her family on the decision to publicize it. The family had to hear about it on local media. Adding that it appeared authorities had failed to do their job in making the notification before they announced it publicly. I am so sorry that the family was done that way. The reasoning for this, an Austin police spokesperson said that the department did not alert the family before the announcement because the complaint over the DNA report came from within the department and was handled internally. Okay, I don't get that. I don't get it at all. If it was handled internally, why was there a press release about it in the first place? Well, people need to know what's going on behind closed doors, I guess. But the two subjects don't even seem that related to me. Okay, it was handled internally, but you still could have said something about a press release. Here's a quote from the family. In a role like this where you are supposed to protect and serve, you are not doing that. I would suggest to that officer that they go work at a McDonald's where you can mess up somebody's order and not kill them. Okay, so moving on. Law enforcement officials said that they are re-examining as many as 10 unsolved homicides in the Austin area dating back to the 90s. Now, so far, Meza has not been charged in any other killing so far. Authorities say they had also searched in a field and found a possible gravesite linked to Meza with partially buried clothes and a tarp, but no human remains. Authorities found the site after they learned that the police in Pflugerville, and that's a suburb, we say it's a suburb. They say they're a separate city. Doesn't really matter at this point. You be separate city if you want to. The police had found Meza walking near the field with blood on his face. Okay. The police spokesperson says that there are no updates on the possible gravesite, so either they didn't find anything or they have to keep details close to the vest for proof of ownership of a crime. Okay. Are we ready to talk about Mr. Jesse Fraga and his family? God bless that family. They've been through a lot. Now, this is how a convicted killer was able to move into the home of one of his suspected victims. In his alleged confession to a homicide detective, Mesa implicated himself in the killing of Jesse Fraga, who was a retired probation officer whom authorities have described as Mesa's caregiver and roommate. Creepy side note, in the affidavit of this confession, there is also a detail of a double murder he said he committed in San Antonio years earlier, and that is an ongoing investigation, and it was left with no comment. You know, I'm not telling y'all any of this to try to make you mad or hurt your heart. These are things that can happen in anyone's neighborhood, and they don't always get the press coverage that would keep us well informed. So that's why I do it. Now, let's go meet the family of Jesse Fraga. And this is how a convicted killer was able to move into the home of one of his victims. In the alleged confession to homicide detective, Meza implicated himself in the killing of Jesse Fraga, who was a retired probation officer whom authorities describe as Mesa's caregiver and roommate. A creepy side note. In the affidavit of his confession, there's also a detailed double murder that he says that he committed in San Antonio years earlier. That investigation is ongoing without comment. Journalistic investigators discovered a 2012 lawsuit filed by Jesse Fraga, like I said, the former probation officer, along with his wife, and a third plaintiff listed as John Doe. KXAN News learned Doe was a pseudonym for Raul Mesa Jr. Fraga and his wife had befriended Mesa through their church outreach program. Court records state that the Fragas invited Mesa to Bible studies, which he attended, and helped him in finding housing and employment. The Fragas even allowed Mesa to stay at their home for a short period of time when he otherwise would have been homeless. Their religious beliefs encouraged them to help those less fortunate and forgive others' sins. When Mesa's parole was revoked for violating a condition of his release, Mesa went back to prison for 8 years. During those 8 years, he stayed in contact with the Fraga family, and they had a close friendship in which the Fragas offered him friendship, religious guidance, and encouragement according to the lawsuit. Mesa was released from prison in 2002, but was mostly restricted to the Travis County Jail in Del Valley. Del Valley is a rural community near Austin. Well, I say rural. It used to be rural, but they've grown up a lot out there, and it looks so nice. The lawsuit says the Fragas attempted to provide some money to Mesa. Fraga contended that then state imposed another restriction or condition of release on Raul Mesa Jr., specifically prohibiting the couple from helping him. Fraga and his wife sued on the grounds that this restriction violated their First Amendment rights. It was retaliatory and punished them for attempting to rehabilitate Mesa. The Fragas and Mesa were represented by the Texas Civil Rights Project and longtime civil rights attorney Jim Harrington, who spoke with the Fragas specifically about the motivation to allow a convicted killer to live in their home. End quote. I had this conversation with them about whether this was really a wise thing to do. End quote. The foremost civil rights attorney and founder of the Texas Civil Rights Project, though he was concerned, he said that he vividly remembers Fraga explaining how his faith compelled him to help. End quote. It was out of his Christian beliefs. He and his wife had a history of reaching out to people that most others wouldn't be near. When we were talking about it, he said no one was available to take care of. No one else would take care of him, and we need to do it. End quote. Texas Civil Rights Project took on the case because they felt that Fraga's civil rights had been violated, stating that you had somebody that came to you with a very intense religious motivation, and you have the state saying, sorry, you can't exercise your religious belief, Harrington said. It was my personal belief that although the heart of the matter, and this is what I'm saying from me personally, in my personal belief, that at the heart of the matter, they may have had the best of intentions, but this was sure a ass-backwards way to go about it. The other restriction order against interacting with Mesa was very broad, but specifically targeted the Fragas from communicating and providing any aid, such as money, to Meza, the lawsuit states. It was very unusual, and we've never quite understood what was prompting the parole folks to do this. That's what Mr. Harrington said. Jesse Fraga had spent more than 40 years working excuse me, as a Travis County adult probation officer and special investigator for the Texas Office of Attorney General. Jesse knew what he was doing. The defendants in this lawsuit were multiple officials of the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles and the Department of Criminal Justice Parole Division. The lawsuit was eventually dismissed after parole officials had backed off of the restriction that prevented contact with Meza. That paved the way for Meza to later move into Fraga's home. Soon after, Jesse's wife and son both died of an alleged illness. Meza agreed to move out May 12th, 2023. Okay. Meza was charged on May 30th with killing Fraga, whose body was found 10 days earlier. Police found him during a welfare check initiated by his niece, who hadn't spoken with him in days. Fraga was discovered in a bathroom closet with knife wounds, a belt around his neck, and a belt around his wrist. He was 80 years old. In the house, there were large amounts of dried blood in several rooms and a bloody kitchen knife. The Ring doorbell, who doesn't have a Ring doorbell, go get one, please. It's for your own good. The Ring doorbell video from May 13th showed Meza getting into Fraga's truck, which was found abandoned off I-35 9 days later. I-35 is our major highway that goes right through the middle of town. Inside the truck were boots covered in blood. Meza's own car was found parked in the driveway of the Fragas' residence. In that car, they found hammer, hatchet, duct tape, and gloves. He had a kill kit. That following day, just before 2 p.m., Meza called the Austin 311 number. 311 is like non-emergency stuff. Yeah, non-emergency. My goodness. And he was forwarded to the Austin Police Department Homicide Division. When homicide detective answered the phone, Meza said, "My name is Raul Mesa, and I think you're looking for me." Detective then started to record the conversation and asked Meza to repeat his name. He did repeat his name and then spelled it out, and then began describing his lifetime and stints in prison. He said that he left prison in 2016 and ended up murdering a lady soon afterwards, adding where the death took place. Yeah, that was Miss Lofton. Meza said he believed that the case was not investigated as a homicide and was misidentified by police. So he was keeping up on his own cases, little sick fucker. You think this phone call was also an attempt to get ahead of his behavior? Just like he had in the past. He had a rhythm to all this. And here's what he said was the reason for Fraga's murder. Due to supposed sexual activity between them and it getting out of hand. After one encounter, he flipped out and killed him. He also confessed, at that time, he confessed to a double homicide in San Antonio, of which he has not been convicted. Meza was arrested 3 days later while carrying a bag that contained handgun, nylon rope, duct tape, zip ties, a flashlight, and a condom. So he had another kill kit. This time it's a little bigger, got a few more things in it. Oof. After his arrest, Meza told the police that he was ready and prepared to kill again. In September 2024, Meza pled guilty to the murder of Fraga and guilty to capital murder with intent to commit sexual assault for the murder of Miss Lofton. He chose not to appeal and was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Judge Julie Kokurek wanted to know if Meza was ready to apologize, and which he replied, "I think it's too late. What's the use if no person will accept it?" Meza said he didn't see a use other than for the public to ostracize him, since he had already admitted his guilt. You're in jail, you jerk. How much more ostracized can you get? Meza's lawyer at the time, Russell Hunt Jr., offered prosecutors a plea agreement of 2 50-year sentences to be served concurrently for the killings of Lofton and Fraga. Another deal. We never learn. In addition to the 3 murders he was convicted of, police suspect Meza of being responsible for as many as 10 others, 2 of which occurred in 2018 and 1 at the beginning of 2019. According to a search warrant, he was also responsible for several sexual assaults. There's not much online in any details about those, and I probably wouldn't report on it if I found it, because those victims have been through enough. It's their story to tell, and I support them in doing so. During his stints of freedom, Meza moved to various Texas cities, including San Antonio, El Paso, Wichita Falls, Mineral Wells, Sweetwater, and in Uvalde County. And he was run out of all of them due to community protest. Speaking with the Austin police detective, Meza said he committed 2 killings in San Antonio in the prior year, and we kind of talked about them, so I'll update you when we know something new. Police Department former Sergeant Bruce Mills said, "Somebody made a bad decision 41 years ago and let this guy go, for whatever reason, to manipulate the system, and justice was not served." Austin Police Department Detective Kay Connor said, "So we're backtracking it to 1996 and even earlier, so there's a good possibility that we'll find additional cases as well." Yeah, that part. The document did not reveal where in San Antonio he lived. No further details about those deaths or victims was available. And to quote, San Antonio Police Department homicide detectives are in communication with Austin PD and currently looking into the statements made by the suspect, end quote. San Antonio Police told KSAT, that's their local news channel, that Austin Police Department is the lead agency in the case and no interviews or comments will be provided. In an article by Meredith Aldis, published July 3rd, 2023, Fox 7 Austin is another TV station. Jesse's nephew, Fred Alvarez, spoke out. He was a father figure, and he was the one who raised me. When Alvarez was in junior high, his parents got divorced, so he moved into Austin and lived with Jesse and his family. Quote, he was always helping out other people and other kids in the neighborhood. End quote. I believe that they should have been able to apprehend him long before this. Mr. Alvarez tells us, I remember seeing Raul at Jonathan and Tilly's memorial services. That is the son and wife of Jesse Fraga. Fred goes on to state, I didn't know him that well, and one thing Jesse taught us is not to judge until you get a chance to walk in another's shoes and know who they are. But yeah, no one expected that. Alvarez said he couldn't believe the reason gave police for killing Uncle Jesse. They didn't believe that there was any sex involved. He started demanding sex, and after one encounter, he says he just flipped out and lost it. And yeah, none of the family believes that. So, yeah. Around this, Meza is charged with capital murder, 2 counts of murder, unauthorized use of a vehicle. So I know it may sound petty, but stack up those charges. Any little thing that you can find to pin on him, let's do that. Because if he gets around some of the big issues, they can catch him on the smaller one and then throw all the books at him. All the books. Also, Austin police have found an APD cold case, homicide from, like I said, 2018, that may be linked to Raul Mesa. According to a search warrant affidavit, Austin police detectives filed a search warrant to gain access to Mesa's Google account, which police believe they will help uncover more details in the murders Mesa is already linked to, as well as any additional cold cases. It seems that the case that they're looking at matches the modus operandi of Meza. APD clarified with KXAN that it is continuing to explore all avenues to determine whether Meza is tied to the various cases in Austin and San Antonio. There's not currently any new details or information confirming the connection. These cases are ongoing, and also I'm keeping an eye on this. You'll know as soon as I know. Now, here's a couple of the suspected cases that I want to tell you about. Mesa may have sexually assaulted and killed 2 Central Texas women over the past 5 years. The killer is believed to be a short Hispanic male and is a person of interest in the crime against 28-year-old Alba Janice Aviles in Bastrop County and the June killing of Alyssa Ann Rivera, 34. Rivera was last seen on June 21st, leaving Club Caribe in southeast Austin before the police discovered her body in a nearby abandoned house. Caribe is less than 3 miles from where Aviles' body was found in her car on the side of the road in Bastrop County. Police say, so same guy, or do we have a new one? If this wasn't Meza, who is this? Police didn't think the cases were initially connected because they never do. Here we go again. However, they discovered the same DNA evidence in both crime scenes, leading authorities to speculate that the same person killed Aviles and Rivera, although they won't say if the DNA is a match to Meza. Police have released videos of the suspect walking with Miss Rivera on the night that she disappeared. And I'll put the link to that video in the comments, and y'all can judge for yourself who you think it looks like. But I need to write a note. Dear Texas, I need to speak to you again. Usually you will inject somebody that acts like this. Why did you miss this one? I'm asking for a friend. Sweet dreams, y'all. I'll see you next week.